One of the most important feature areas of a subcompact tractor is how it attaches to the various attachments. Is it easy? Is it difficult? Is it time consuming? It does vary from brand to brand. We're going to take a look at that on this new Holland Workmaster 25S today. Let's get started. This mower deck mechanism seems almost identical to that on the Kubota. Some folks say you don't need to turn the wheels sideways, but I find it really heavy to work with if I don't. This latch here has to go right in there. First thing I'm going to do is connect this PTO shaft. Strike that. First thing I'm going to do is figure out how to get Christy to connect this PTO shaft.
Oh, thanks.
Now this deck is almost identical to the Kubota, so anything I showed you on the Kubota deck or anything Neil Messick might show you on the Kubota deck, I believe would apply here. One trick that you need to know is that you can line up the splines without pulling back this collar. So you should be able to get the shaft started there. I actually got it on that far. You can get it on to where it'll stay on before you have to pull back the collar. And then you can pull back the collar and hopefully get it the rest of the way on. There, and then the collar latches. So that allows you to get it so it's much easier to hook up. You don't have to be holding back this collar while you're trying to line up the splines. I've slid the mower deck forward so that I had more room to reach in here. Now I'm going to slide it back so that the mechanisms line up here. Okay, so here we go back with the deck. So I'm bringing this back here. I want to pull that back. One thing I notice is this latch doesn't have a good way to hold it out, so unfortunately, it needs to go a lot lower than that. I'm trying not to be biased, but it's pretty hard, guys. I'm trying to be as objective as possible. Is it really objective when you're overlooking an obvious advantage of another manufacturer? The back is attached. Now we have to do the front. This again is almost identical to the Kubota. Either they've sourced from the same manufacturer or somebody's just a copycat. I think I remember counting the number of times I was on my back for the BX deck install. Okay, I think this slides right in that slot there. Now we had a little trouble taking this out, so I think there's some bend here. Yeah, I believe this one's bent on this side just a little bit, so may have to have a little bit of persuasion to get that back in there. Christy, can you find my persuasion on the deck of the tractor? There she goes. Okay, now we pick that up. Latch it right in there like that. And is the latch missing over there, or is there not one? I guess there's not one. I believe we're done. I'll adjust it to 3.5. I'll adjust it to 4. Yeah, it's working. Now I'm going to turn the wheels around straight again. Folks, I don't really see how anyone can say that the auto connect deck, the full auto connect deck of the Deere, isn't better than this. I just don't understand. And this one is just as good as the manual connect Kubota. I haven't seen the drive over Kubota. I don't know for sure if it has an auto connect PTO shaft. I do not believe it does. But this is the same deck approach that's been used for 15, 20 years, maybe even longer than that. And I think we have a better way. So in summary, I think I would find this mower deck approach to be similar to everybody except for Deere. It's a step way behind the Auto Connect, and for me, I would not be able to take this deck on and off twice a week, or essentially put it on to mow, take it off to do everything else like I do on the 1025R. I'm trying to be objective here. I can't see any other way to describe this. It's just not as nice. Now, for you, if you're going to use the tractor only for mowing or never for mowing, I think it might be fine. Just either have the deck on or don't have it on. But if you want this to be a multi-purpose tractor like most subcompacts are used, then I would think twice about getting a manually connected deck. Christy, I'm thankful you allowed me to get a nice shop with a concrete floor so I could do this. It'd be hard for me to do this out in the driveway or on a hill. Yeah. Okay, now we're going to try to attach the loader. This loader is a pin-on loader, whereas both the Kubota BX and the 1025R have more of a quick attach mechanism. I've driven in most of the way as far as I can here, and now I'm going to connect the hoses. The hydraulic hoses are not much different than any other brand to connect, except for Kubota and John Deere. Kubota has a single point connection, which is standard. And that you just mate it up and push down the handle. Even if there's pressure on it, it should work and work pretty well. Deere now has a similar single point connection. It's an option. So it adds a good bit. I think it's $640 to the price, but it works really well. I've got that on my 1025R. To my knowledge, none of the other brands offer a single point connection. From Christie's standpoint, the attaching of the hydraulic hoses is the hardest part of the loader attachment, and it really makes it hard for her with her fingers. She can't pull back these sleeves and make the connection very well. She just doesn't have the strength in her fingers to be able to make that work. She can do the single point connection, just set it on there and pull it down. She can do that with ease. So for her, it's kind of the difference between being able to remove the loader or not. But with the exception of the single point, these connectors are just like any other brand. There is one difference, I suppose, and that's that the female version of the connectors stay with the loader, the male stay on the tractor. And that's different than the way the Deere is made. And I'm not sure about the older BXs. They may have been like this one. But that does seem to make it a little bit easier. I'm able to push straight downward with the female part of that connector, and that gives me a little more force to be able to push down. So I kind of like that. Now that we got the hoses connected, we're just going to try to lower the boom into place. For me, it's a combination of lower and curl. Once you've had your tractor for a little while and done this a couple of times, you will learn that combination and it won't be hard for you at all. I think this is my second try and it wasn't hard for me at all. Okay, so I pull it until it pulls the front wheels off the ground. And then I can grab the pin here and slide that pin right in there. Drop it. So that part I can do from the seat. I've always worked on the hard concrete floor when I've removed it, the 2 times that I've done it, and I've not had any issue getting these pins to come loose. So as soon as I lift the front wheels off the ground, those pins are loose and they allow me to remove them easily. So that's not bad at all. We've got one more step. I'll lift the loader up and you'll be able to see it. These parking stands just need to be tucked away and we'll be all done. Now this has got a bolt in it. The factory ships it with a pin. And so the bolt is well, it's extra special for this one. Meaning they lost the pin. Okay, and I had to push it up there with a little bit of force because it's spring loaded. You push this outward to release that little latch there. Okay? There we go. On this side, we've got the spring key, pin. At least on this loader, this seems to work fine. I don't see any evidence that they've been bent. So, you know, it must be fairly strong. Let us know in the comments section below if you've got an LS or a New Holland and you've had any trouble with the loader stand or with attaching or removing your loader. I always want to hear from people who have had these for years and hear what their own experiences are. Overall, this is slightly more difficult than the Deere or the Kubota BX, but it's not bad at all. This is entirely acceptable. Let's move on to the backhoe. Now this backhoe connection is nearly identical to the 1025R. I didn't have a backhoe for the BX when I tested it, so I can't tell you if there's any difference there or not. A lot of folks seem to have trouble with the backhoe connectivity. I typically don't, so I'm not sure why. Maybe this will help. Now, one difference between the 1025R and this machine is it has 3 hoses on the backhoe. So my presumption is that we have the full power beyond with the loop, the pressured loop back to the tractor, and then we also have a return to tank line. So it wasn't entirely obvious to me which one to hook them up to, but since the hoses had already been bent in a certain angle, it kind of become a little more obvious. This one's got just a little bit of a kink in it that makes it not go in straight. There we go. So that should complete the loop. And then here's another one to return to the tank. So we've hooked the hydraulics up first to be able to raise the backhoe to get these pins high enough to back under them. These pins here have, the backhoe has leaked down over the few days that it's been off here. And so by hooking up the hydraulics, we can raise that back up and get under it. This one's a step easier than the Deere because I can actually reach these controls. So I lower it into those hooks. I'll raise this other one all the way up, but I'll leave that right one down so that the camera can still see. Now, the bottom pins are in the hooks that are on the tractor. Now I'm going to lower this, boom, and that should raise the top part of the backhoe so it hits right there. We should be able to get those two big pins in. So I'm going to lower this down so I can get in there. Okay, you'll be able to see it from right here. Okay, that's it. We'll just bring the boom up now. And the backhoe is fully attached. Again, that connection is essentially identical to the 1025R, hook on the bottom, pins on the top. The only difference is one extra hydraulic hose. These hooks here are intended to keep the boom from drooping over time. But unfortunately, the mechanism is binding. It doesn't allow it to go down very easily. It came back up. Now I can't get it to go back down, but I can pry under there and get it to turn loose. And then it hooks. There we go. We're ready to dig. Okay, on the topic of attachability, I believe there's one more item we should cover, and that is the front bucket. We talked about attaching the loader and removing the loader, but for a lot of applications, we want to put a different attachment instead of our front bucket. So we want to be able to replace this quickly. This particular unit has a pin-on bucket. It's not going to be crazy hard to replace this bucket and put another attachment on. That's not really the issue. The issue is finding compatible attachments because the size of these pins, the location of these pins, not everybody's going to make pin-on attachments that would fit this tractor. In fact, probably very few would. So from an attachability standpoint, it's much better to have either the skid steer quick attach if you're working with most brands, or the John Deere quick attach if you're working with John Deere. We have an episode describing some pros and cons of each of those. I'll put a link in the description and a card above for that. New Holland and LS made a change, I believe early 2020, maybe January of 2020, I'm not sure exactly, but they put the skid steer quick attach on every one of these units. They replaced this proprietary attach mechanism with the skid steer quick attach as a standard feature. This is one advantage, again, of buying a new tractor, is you're going to get those latest of features. And to be honest, it's probably not going to cost a lot more because they had to put some attachment mechanism on it. So the quick attach replacing this one is going to be a lot less expensive than if you took this tractor and added on the parts to do that quick attach later. So something to consider if you're buying used. Now, if you're looking at a larger compact utility tractor, attachability may not be a big deal. 30, 40, 50 horsepower tractor owners often say, I've never removed the loader from my tractor. I don't care whether it's easily removable or not. Makes perfect sense. Most of the applications for those tractors, the loader is necessary or at least not in the way. Likewise, a lot of owners don't have a backhoe, so they don't really think about the need to be able to quickly reattach their backhoe. 30, 40, 50 horsepower tractors typically don't have a mid-mount mower, so you don't have that to think about as well. So attachability is not necessarily important, or at least as important on those larger tractors. But we're talking about subcompact tractors today. These things are the ultimate transformer toys, at least That's one of the names I've given them over time. From back in your childhood, you may remember the Transformer toys, and that's essentially what we've got here. You can be a digging machine, and a half an hour later you can be grooming your front yard. It's pretty amazing how quick you can transform between different activities. For that reason, I think it's important that you look at the detail. I think you will regret getting a mid-mount mower that's difficult to install and remove if you plan to be using your tractor for dirt moving, digging, other applications that need a higher ground clearance. You might think, oh, it's no big deal now, but once you've done it 5, 10, 15 times during a season, it won't be a whole lot of fun anymore. I think that's important. Just do me a favor and consider it, right? It may not be the final answer, but just consider it. Folks, I don't really want to go into a lot of detail about my opinion on this one versus my opinion on another one. I think I've scattered some of that through each of these episodes on this little tractor. But at the same time, my opinion doesn't really matter. What matters is your opinion and what's going to work for you. So look back through these episodes. You'll see several things I think that we've pointed out that's not really in the specs. I hope we've enlightened a little bit about this particular tractor. I hope we've pointed out to you for sure that it is the same as the LS tractor. So if you're considering this machine, also consider the LS. You might find it a few dollars cheaper, and it will be the identical machine. Let us know in the comments section below if you have any questions, any opinions, any comments. We'd love to hear them. I think we've about covered what we can cover with Holly in the middle of winter, and even more so since we don't have any 3-point lift arms. So there's no real opportunity for us to do any ground engaging work with it, or even any mowing. I guess we could go try to mow snow, but that's not going to work for us. So you get what you get, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this. If one of you has a New Holland or LS tractor and you want us to take a look at some different items, we might be able to arrange that at a later date. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time on Tractor Time with Tim.